Ready?
Yes.
Okay, so we continue with the chapter of water. So, متى يصير الماء مستعملا? That when does water become used? So, water becomes used right after it separates from the body. So, for example, a person is doing wudu, washing, the face, the arms. When that water separates from the face, from the arms, then that water is considered as used, which means that it cannot be used again for the purpose of wudu. Right? One of the commentators, he mentions that even if it doesn't separate, and it remains in its place, even then that would be considered as used. That would be considered as used water, which means that it cannot be used again for the purpose of wudu. And moving on, so he says, وَيَصِيرُ الْمَاءُ مُسْتَعْمَلًا بِمُجَرِّدِ انْفِصَالِهِ عَنِ الْجَسَدِ وَإِنْ لَمْ يَسْتَقِرْ فِي الْمَحَلِّ. Even if it's not mustaqir, it doesn't remain stationary in one place. Ala sahih. And this is the most correct view. So this would be the most correct view. لأن سقوط حكم الاستعمال قبل الانفصال لضرورة التطهير. Because when a person is doing wudu, then what is the purpose of that wudu? The purpose of that wudu is tathir. The purpose of that wudu is to become clean. Right? That you want to move into the state of purity, so that you can offer your salat and you could do whatever ibadat, whatever worship one feels like doing. So infisal and separation of that water, this might not be a precondition, right? Just the fact that it's on the body, that in of itself would render the water as used. Now moving on, ولا يجوز ما لا يجوز الوضوء به. Right? So what types of water are not permissible for wudu? So ولا يجوز بماء شجر وثمر ولو خرج بنفسه من غير عصر في الأظهر. So the scholar is saying, Imam Shurumbulali rahmatullah alayhi, is saying that what types of water are not permissible for wudu. So one is not permitted to perform wudu with water that's from a plant, from a tree, right? So if you go into the woods over here, right, and you put a tap in one of those maple trees, so what happens? A liquid type substance starts coming into that tap, right, or a can or whatever you want to put. That's not mutlaq water. That's not pure water. That's something else entirely. So if that's processed further, you're going to get maple syrup. If it's processed further, that's how maple syrup is made. So they put taps into trees, and then they put a whole series of pipes so that it goes into one vat. So that is not water. You cannot do wudu from that. Same thing with cacti. So plants that are in the desert, they tend to hold a lot of water. So that would not be considered as mutlaq water. That's not default water, because when it comes out very thick. So it's another substance entirely. So any water which is from the trees, from fruit, even if it's fruit, right, that's not considered as mutlaq water. That's not default water. Even if it flows out by itself, without even, squeezing, even then, It would not be permissible to do wudu from such water. And this is the most correct view on this particular topic. So juice from grapes, oranges, right? That's not mutlaq water. That would not be considered as default water. You would have to use default water for wudu to be correct. ولا بماء زال طبعه بالطبخ أو بغلبة غيره عليه. Similarly, it's not permissible to use water that has lost the qualities of water. Right? What are the qualities of water? Right? And how is the qualities of water is riqqa, right? That it has to be free flowing. It has to be free flowing. It's thin. There cannot be any thickness in that water. So these are the qualities of water. And then you have other qualities as well. The smell, the taste, the color. All of these factor in they factor into the usage of water. So the Imam Shurum Bulali is saying it's not permissible to use water that has lost its quality. How? Through cooking, right? Because if you cook water, it will ultimately lose its quality. Or through water being simply overwhelmed, ghalaba. It becomes overwhelmed. It becomes completely dominated, right, by other qualities, right? By something that would change the qualities. But and either it's milk, vinegar. If you put that in water, and if you put a lot of it, then what will happen to that water? That water will become overwhelmed. So the nature of water is that it's thin, it flows easy, right? It's free flowing. And if it loses that nature through cooking, or because a substance has fallen in, and as a result of that substance falling into that water becomes thick. It becomes thick. It's not free flowing or anything. Then that would not be mutlaq water. That would not be default water. So if a person cooks, for example, let's say he puts vegetable in water. He puts some spinach into the water, right? He's put spinach into the water. The qualities of that spinach is going to seep into that water, right? The quality of that spinach is going to seep into that water. That water is going to be rendered as not mutlaq water. It won't be considered as default water. So anything that would make that water into something else entirely, it would not be default water. It would not be mutlaq water. Yes.
How about the water from the ocean? Like it has a lot of salt in it, and like
water from what?
From the ocean, from
the ocean. Yeah, water from ocean that goes against the common understanding. And this was one of the reasons why the Sahaba posed the question to the Prophet ﷺ, that we travel by ocean, we're on a boat, and the qualities of water, they're clearly changed, right? So you have the taste, the smell, and the color. All three of them are affected, right? All three of them are affected. So the Prophet ﷺ said that the ocean water is pure. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter how many animals are living in the ocean. It doesn't matter about the different types of najasat, the different types of impurities that the animals are giving off, animals dying. All of that does not matter. The Prophet ﷺ, he basically stated that huwa tuhuru ma'uhu, that the water is completely clean. Right? And not only that, the Prophet ﷺ went a step further and said that even the maita, even the animals of the sea, they too are halal. Okay? So this would answer the question that ocean water, it would be the exemption. Ocean water would be the exemption. This particular chapter, this particular text is speaking strictly about that water, which is the water that comes from the sky, right? Or water that we use normally, right? Well water, rainwater, river water, pond water. Right? These are the types of water from a reservoir. These are the waters that we use on a regular basis. So these waters are permissible to be used, provided that the qualities are not changed. So what are the qualities? The qualities of water is that it has to be thin, it has to be easy flowing. If anything, if these qualities are affected, in any way, then that water would be, it would not be permissible to use such water. Yes.
Two questions. The first one, the example that you gave about the spinach
Yes.
being used boiled, that's obviously at a point after which the water loses its qualities, right?
Yes.
It's not if you drop spinach in it and then you take it out.
Yes.
It's
Absolutely not.
So that was the first one. Here, the second one is that, for example, animals such as the camel, it's said to store water in its hump. So does, if we were to extract that water somehow, would that be fair?
No.
To use?
No.
Okay.
No, it would not.
Sheikh, if we were to store water then in a sheepskin or something that is made out of animal skin, then obviously that ruling probably would not hold to that water.
No.
But then how would we distinguish between the two? What's the criteria to distinguish between the two?
Well, the camel is alive.
Okay.
The camel is alive, and extracting water from a camel some way somehow, you're probably going to be extracting other things as well. So, when it comes to animal skins, so those animal skins have been tanned. They've undergone a tanning process. So the qualities of the animal, they're not going to seep into that water because it's undergone this tanning process. It's a very elaborate process where you use salts and different types of dyes to make sure that you can make it into animal skin or a water bottle or whatever. So it's not like the closest example, well, it's not really an example, but I guess it's a common issue. Cheeses, right? Cheese. So the Prophet ﷺ, and this is a point of disagreement amongst the scholars. So the Prophet ﷺ, he would eat cheese that was made by the Zoroastrians, right? The Zoroastrians, they're mushrik, they're polytheists. And how does one make cheese? You have to use rennet. You have to use rennet. So rennet is a substance that is found inside animals, right? It's completely independent from the rest of the animal. So in Arabic, this is called infaha. In Arabic, it is called infaha. So, which translates to rennet. So in those days, they would extract. So the one type of rennet was, it's jamid, it's solid. There's no ikhtilaf in that, according to the Hanafi school, right? You can take that rennet, you can extract it from a halal animal, even if that halal animal has not been slaughtered according to the conditions of the Islamic law. Okay, so if it's meta, if it's carrion, if it has not been slaughtered, and you go into the stomach of that animal and you extract that rennet and you use that rennet, right, to curdle the milk, to make it into cheese, that would be halal, according to the Hanafi school, right? The point of disagreement within the Hanafi school, if it's liquid, would it have the same ruling? So the preponderant opinion is that yes, it would have the same ruling. So the vast majorities of cheese, and the Jewish people today, they still use this method of extracting rennet. So, and it will even say if you go to the supermarket, it will say rennet, and then it will have in commas, sheep or goat or whatever. But nowadays, the vast majority of rennet is microbial. So it's not even an issue. Microbial is from plants, plant rennet. And it's a type of enzyme. Right? So it's similar to a chicken. It dies, and you open it up, and there's an egg which is intact inside. Is the egg halal? Yeah, the egg is halal. It's not connected. It's not associated to the meat of the animal, to the blood of the animal, anything that is impure of the animal. Same thing with milk that comes out of the udders of a cow after it has died. What association does that milk have with the with the blood of the animal? It has no association. It's a completely different duct. So this would be, according to the Hanafi school, this would be permissible. It would not be permissible according to the other schools, because then I believe Sheikh Muhammad is here. You can confirm with him. I think every ajza of the animal, right, that can be eaten, that would be impure if it has not been slaughtered according to the Islamic rites.
Another question. So you mentioned like if the water is changed, the free flowing nature is changed. Right?
Yes.
So what about if like for example tea, right? The color is changed, but the water is still free flowing. Would that be?
Yeah. So that's actually the next set of texts. وَالْغَلَبَ فِي مُخَالَطِ الْجَامِدَاتِ بِإِخْرَاجِ الْمَاءِ مِنْ رِقَّتِهِ وَسَيْلَانِهِ. So your question would be وَالْغَلَبَ فِي الْمَاءِيَاتِ بِظُهُورِ وَصْفٍ وَاحِدٍ مِنْ مَاءٍ لَهُ وَصْفَانِ فَقَدْ كَاللَّبَنِ لَهُ اللَّوْنُ والطعم ولا رائحة له وبظهور وصفين من ماء له ثلاثة كالخل. That would be that.
Was found.
Yes. Yeah.
I need to hear it again.
Yeah. So what? This would be actually it's after this ibara. So بما تكون الغلبة, that which overwhelms, dominates water. والغلبة في مخالطة الجامدات بإخراج الماء عن رقته وسيلانه ولا يضر تغير أوصافه كلها بجامد كزعفران وفاكهة وورق شجر. So Imam Shurum Bulali rahmatullah alayhi is saying that when mixed, what overwhelms water? Okay, so when water is mixed with a solid substance, okay, when it's mixed with a solid substance, the water is going to be dominated, or it's overwhelmed. When is it overwhelmed? When it loses that easy flowing nature, right? The easy flowing nature of water. Then it is not permissible to use that for wudu. But if the water retains its flowing nature, even after mixing it with something solid, like saffron, you put saffron in, what is it going to do to the water? It's just going to make color, right? Only the color, but nothing is affected. So far as the riqqa and saylan is concerned, so far as the free-flowing nature is concerned, that's not going to be affected. Similarly, leaves that fall into the reservoir or into the well or into your pond, right? You have different. Does it affect the free-flowing nature of water? No, it doesn't. So it's permissible to use it. It remains permissible to use, even if the water loses all of its qualities: color, smell, taste, right? So this means that if a solid, such as leaves, fruits, saffron, if that falls into the water and it loses all of its qualities, right, it would still be permissible to use that water. You can use that water. So tea, that would be, if you take some tea leaves, you crush it, you put it in water, is it going to lose any riqqa or saylan? Is it going to lose the free-flowing nature? No, it wouldn't. So it would be permissible to use.
Even after heating, or
that would be a problem then. Once you heat it, then there is a strong possibility that it is going to lose that riqqa and saylan. It's going to lose its free-flowing nature. So, yes.
What do you mean by free-flowing nature?
Free-flowing nature meaning, how water, the natural characteristic of water is that it moves quick, right? It moves quick. It's free-flowing. So this is what it means with riqqa and saylan. So, and the hadith is that the Prophet ﷺ, he mentions when someone had passed, the Prophet ﷺ said that wash him with water that has the effects of sidr, lotus tree, right? Sidr and ushnan, sabun. Right? So wash him with that, which means what? That tahara can be achieved. Tahara and cleanliness can be achieved with such water that has leaves, because sidr is a type of leaf, right? Ushnan, sabun, these are things that are used for what? For the mayyit, right? For someone who has passed, you use ushnan, you put that into the water retains its free-flowing nature. Even if the quantity is less, it would be permissible. Okay, so if lotus leaves fall in, this is what was used in those days. Lotus leaves, sabun, ushnan, sidr, these were the things that were used. Even sometimes, the zaytun, the tree of the zaytun, that was put into water, just for the bitterness, because it was hygienic. So they would use this. They would use this as well. Okay, we'll continue inshallah next week. Okay, so just to recap. So today we went over متى يصير الماء مستعملا, when does water become used? So water becomes used right after it separates from the body. So a person who's washing the arm, right, or the face, or the feet. So right when the water separates, that water is used, which means that it cannot be used again. What types of water are not permissible for usage? So water that is from a tree, right? Water that is from fruit, وَلَوْ خَرَجَ بِنَفْسِهِ, even if the water flows by itself without being squeezed, مِنْ غَيْرِ أَصْلٍ فِي الْأَظْهَرِ, if it just comes out naturally, right? That water cannot be used for wudu. And then finally, وَلَا بِمَا إِنْ زَالَ تَبُهُ بِالطَّبْخِ أَوْ بِغَلَبَةِ غَيْرِ عَلَيْهِ. And similarly, it's not permissible to use water that has lost its essence or nature through cooking, or through water that is overwhelmed by something else. Water that is overwhelmed by something else, you cannot use such water. So then they mention what overwhelms the water. So when mixed with a solid substance, the water is overwhelmed when it loses its thin, easy flowing nature. That's the condition over here, right? When it loses the thin, easy flowing nature, which means what? What's the opposite of that? If it doesn't, then it's permissible. If it doesn't lose that thin, flowing nature, then it's permissible. You can use it even if it loses all of its qualities, such as color, taste, smell. So you put saffron in, you put saffron in to your water, it loses color, taste, smell. It definitely loses color, definitely loses smell. So then the only thing you have is taste, right? Maybe depending on the amount, you're gonna taste a little bit, but even then, that water would be permissible to be used, right? And as I said, the hadith is very clear. The Prophet ﷺ allowed the Sahaba, and rather advised the Sahaba that no, use sidr, use the lotus leaf, use sidr, use these substances, and you can wash the mayyit with that. You can wash the body with that. Sabun, all of these things. This would be permissible for wudu. And then inshallah next week we'll go over when water is mixed with a liquid substance. Yeah. Then what? So for example, if water is mixed with milk, vinegar, right? Then what? So if it loses, this is a liquid substance. So then what is the hukum for that water? We'll go over that next week. There's some stuff there.